What is a dark secret that you have? When I was a small child, my mother's friend Amy was babysitting. Amy had a son, and for whatever reason, he broke one of his brand new toys while I was there. When his mother found out, he blamed me, and she believed him. She let all the kids go outside in the pool while I had to stay inside and do the dishes. Well, I wasn't washing them the way she wanted, so she grabbed the back of my neck and shoved my face into the hot soapy water and smacked my face. Later that night, I had to shower over her house, so I pissed in her mouth. Wash and hair conditioner while I was in the bathroom. Still makes me smile thinking of that bitch gargling my little burr piss. My maternal grandmother, who recently died, dreared at least one of her husbands for his money, and possibly more because she had several who died under mysterious circumstances. She was never convicted, but the dude died from rare earth metal poisoning that developed from years of eating tainted food. She cooked every single one of his meals during that period of time. Notably, she did not get poisoned herself. Distant cousin on my husband's side, widowed 5 times. Each one died in a situation she could never have been responsible for. Offshore oil platform explosion. Industrial accident at a refinery. Rental car accident for states away. Fall from a construction site. Heart attack from long existing issues before they ever married. We asked her if she was ever going to marry again. The best thing I can do for the male population is not to. Ever. Went to my girlfriend, now wife's parents' house for Thanksgiving. She started introducing her family, and I instantly recognized her sister as a long-term ex-buddy from college that stopped after having to terminate an accidental pregnancy. First moment we were able to sidebar, we decided it was best to say nothing, and for nearly 15 years now, we haven't. I grew up in Maryland. When I was 16, me and my friends were driving home from a party. All of us were intoxicated, so we were on a back road trying to lay low. Suddenly, we came across an overturned Jeep and immediately pulled over. Completely freaking out, the driver was crushed, but the passenger was still alive. He couldn't talk or anything and was struggling to breathe. My one friend pulled him from the vehicle and then he just stopped breathing. He died right in front of us. At that point, we were all freaking the fuck out, debating whether to call the cops or even do anything. Because, again, we were all teenagers. Nobody wanted to get a DUI that night, so we just went home. And as soon as we got back, my one friend took the fall and told the police what happened, etc. Here's the worst part. The 2 people in the Jeep were the parents of some girl in my class, and I thought about that night for the rest of high school. So many things that could have been done differently. My son was most likely conceived in a Walmart family's bathroom, while me and his mom were both employed there. I told my wife that I dropped the Nutella and it smashed, so I had to throw it out. Truth is, I ate it all out of the jar. I used to work at an investment bank. However, to get the job I had to do a variety of assessments, which among others included an Excel financial modeling test. Now, quite experienced with Excel, have built lots of complex financial models, but what this task involved was to make some corrections to a very poorly built financial model. Not intentionally bad, just whoever did it didn't know their stuff well. They leave me in a room with a laptop to complete this task. I open up the spreadsheet and have very little idea where to start. This is just making no sense. As I'm scanning through the tabs, desperately trying to find things I'm able to do, I notice something saved on the desktop. Some previous candidate's attempt was saved there. Well, I opened it up and started copying what that guy had done and added a few tweaks of my own. I ended up getting the job. I kick ice cubes under the fridge when I accidentally drop them on the floor. Not exactly dark, but I'm pretty sure my son isn't biologically mine. There was a lot of doubt about the date of conception and multiple people his mother cheated on me with. But after months of being promised he was mine, I foolishly just accepted it, or told myself to anyway. Cut to him being 3 months old. She decides she's scared of him and can't look after him. He's now 7 years old and never sees his mom. She's vanished and doesn't even check in with him. He's my son, no matter what anyone could tell me, as far as I'm concerned. At this point though, I've raised him and loved him unconditionally for the past 7 years and will continue to do for the rest of his life. And if I'm being honest, I'm also really scared to get a DNA test more than anything, for fear that if I found out he isn't mine, I wouldn't love him or look at him the same way. I don't think I would ever do that personally, but you just never know how a highly emotional situation is going to make you react or feel sometimes. When I was about 13, I caught my mother having sex with her brother. Haven't told anyone in the last 9 years so as to not mess my family up. You know those horrible stories where you read that some monster or pet a baby? I was that baby, and the monster was my dad. It happened my whole childhood, and my mother knew it as well. She walked in a few times and immediately left. She knew. We all knew. I acted out as a child, unsurprisingly, and was forced to see a therapist who was a friend of my parents. I told him, and he confronted my dad and gave the option to call the police. But he told me what would happen if I did. I decided not to, so the secret continued. He did it up to when I was 11, and I said this didn't feel right. He would also attempt drunk here and there when I was in my teens, and even occasionally apologized for it. Eventually I met my amazing wife, and when I had my first child, I knew I had to tell my mom and exit for my son's safety. Despite both of us knowing what happened, my mother told me for the first and last time she loved me, didn't believe me, and I should never come back. It's been 5 years, and my wife and son have given me the life I never knew I could have. He was a well-established doctor, so no one would ever believe or help me. And later found out he did it to his brother as well. I worry about the disabled patients who had been exposed to him during his practice. I also suffer from PTSD and have horrible, sad, violent dreams. Also, due to my AITAH happening at such an early part of my development, DRs believe my amygdala didn't develop right, and as a result, I become instantly enraged or anxious from the slightest problem or issue. However, I have worked hard and have become extremely functional despite everything. I have my own house, good job, good credit, an amazing wife, and the most perfect son in the world. There are so many times I wish I had a mom or dad to brag to, or get help from. I realized, however, my parents wanted me to fail so no one would believe me. So duck you mom and dad, I'm doing great. I have been the black sheep of my family my entire life. No matter what I do, it isn't funny to me, it is downright abusive. For the past couple years, I've been secretly taking courses, saving money, and tying up loose ends. I have an entire escape plan set up, with multiple contingency plans, if it doesn't work the way I want it to. Within the next couple months, I'm buying a one-way plane ticket, throwing my cell phone away, starting a brand new life, and disappearing from theirs forever. They have zero idea. They will cry and wonder why. I will not, and know exactly why. I'm excited. Years ago, I got a summer job at a grocery store. I was a teenager, from a poor family, just trying to get a job so that we could afford food. My mom couldn't afford to feed us in the summer without the school lunches, but she made slightly too much to qualify for food stamps. If you've ever been poor, you know how it goes. The manager was a complete swipe who fired me 2 weeks in because, and I quote, "I just don't like your personality." We had never actually spoken until that point. I cried because my mom was counting on me to be able to pay for the groceries that week. And I told him that. He told me I was being dramatic. The store had these barcodes they would stick on things to mark them down if they were expired. I realized that I still had the rolls of printed up stickers in my pocket when I got home, because I had been marking things down that day. I copied the stickers off onto sticky paper and stole probably a few $1,000s of groceries that summer. I technically did pay for the groceries because I was checking them out at the self-checkout and paying money for them. But I was getting salmon fillets and racks of ribs for $2, big veggie trays for $1, expensive cheese for $99, etc. I was careful not to be too greedy and not try to buy a cart full of expensive ST at a time. I would do several smaller transactions at self-checkouts and spread it out over about a dozen stores. It was a big national corporate chain. I paid always in cash. I never got caught. I told my mom that I got an academic scholarship, and that's where I got the money for the groceries. I don't feel bad about it, and the statute of limitations is expired anyway. My best friend from childhood came over to my college dorm to hang out one night. He bought coke and pills from other guys living on my hall for a party he was going to. And honestly, I was impressed with him for being so well versed in the buying of drugs and charismatic with my dorm mates. Before he left, he told me not to tell his mother what he was doing, but to tell her he loved her if he died. And I thought something was wrong, but I let him go because we had plans for the next day, and I figured he had just developed a dark sense of humor in the time since we'd last seen each other. In retrospect, he'd shown all of the signals, but I refused to see them, so I let him drive away. He didn't make it. He crashed his car many hours later that night, with no seatbelt, probably high. His mother asked me what happened. I didn't tell her anything because I wanted her to think it was an innocent accident. I'm still keeping his secret,